Thank you. Let's turn to a new issue which you refer to in paragraph 27. And here you unpack what you refer to as the political complexities. Perhaps I'll just read this paragraph into the record so we can be on the same page. The political complexities which bedeviled the prosecution of perpetrators of gross violation of human rights related mainly to the need of the old order to protect its commanders and foot soldiers, especially those who were at the forefront of committing these dastardly acts, and the equalization of violence in support of the apartheid system and armed resistance to end the apartheid system. There were threats that if the apartheid order operatives were charged, they would also charge particularly members of the National Executive Committee, the ANC, especially the list of 37 that did not get amnesty in terms of the TRC Act. There was a story that the old order operatives had files of minutes of the ANC NEC in exile, which they would use to prosecute leaders of the ANC. So we think that you have very neatly encapsulated the political complexities, to use your phrase, the dilemma facing government at the time. That if prosecutions went ahead, for example, of the old order generals, then there would be pressure on them to also go after the ANC. I think you describe it as equalization. So would I be right in saying that this was in fact the real reason for the sensitivities around these prosecutions?
Yeah. How do I put it? I thought that paragraph puts it better than I can explain it. See, we have political complexities. This is not just a criminal matter and let people be charged, etc. It's a transition from one apartheid system to a democratic society. And you are managing the transition. So I would like to call it management of a transition. How do you manage? If it's a coup, it's a different matter because you just remove the people and substitute them with others. In this way, we manage in transition. I was in the first electoral commission, and I always call it a commission that managed transition rather than just an election. It wasn't a normal election. So that's the complexity. If you take it as a technical matter, it's a just transition from one government to another. But this is complex. It was a complex matter. And even the TRC was a compromise. When I talk about equality, our TRC was going to be how you deal with the perpetrators of human rights violations and the military generals who killed people in a struggle where it's violent. How do you deal with it? And our original design was that it was about these generals and everybody. What do we do? And how do we get reconciliation? But they fought back and did this equalization. We'll treat you the same, you killed us, we killed you, and therefore equalize. So the outcome, that act, was not what we asked for. But they also say that's not what they asked for. So that's what the complexity is about. It's not just about the outcome of the TRC, it's the whole management of the transition. And we created structures that are strange as well. to go through the transition.
So thank you for explaining those complexities.
Yeah.
Let's then turn to the next paragraph. That's paragraph 28 on page 10. It reads, in the light of paragraph 26 above and the fact that we ended up with a political settlement, there was a view which was not codified officially that we should let sleeping dogs lie to avoid destabilization of the new democratic order. Among those who thought like this, as I've said in my book, things that could not be said, there was not much appetite for looking back. Now, firstly, when you use the phrase, we should let sleeping dogs lie, in this context, am I right in saying that you're really saying that there should be no prosecutions at all?
Yeah, I want to repeat again this sentence because the phrasing, it's keep it as some thought like this, others like that. And whatever it's expressed, it's not an official view, it's the views of some. And I respect all those views myself because there were genuine people who were saying, you know, we've had a democratic election, let's normalize the country and not go backwards, because going backwards will destabilize. And these generals were determined, and there were two levels of negotiations where there was CODESA, but there was another level of negotiations with the generals, because they are the ones who were threatening the stability. It didn't matter what agreement you had in CODESA, but they were the key people, and those had to be managed. So I think they were genuine people. My approach is that I can't say that these were bad people and those were not bad people. They were trying to manage a complex transition. And there were those who said, no, you can't do it that way. We want a full process of charging all these generals, you know, on the other extreme. And mine was, if you have evidence, charge them. You don't need anybody, you know. But the people who had to manage that are the old order people as well, you know, the prosecutors at that time, the police, you know, the judiciary. We inherited all that. So that's why the debates. But my view was, there's no debate. If you've got evidence, charge them. If you don't try it, because they will be acquitted, and then you have no leg to stand on. They are innocent. And
thanks, Reverend. Can I ask you, do you perchance recall who was advocating to let the sleeping dogs lie?
No, I wouldn't want to. These were in informal meetings and discussions. It's not official. So there was no formal process. You listen to everybody. When I dealt with my matter, we're in a DG's forum and it's during lunch and you debate these issues. And but they don't turn into an official story. And I put my case that I want to know, so you can't say that I can't do it because it will be risky and etc. I want it done. If there's another way, I'm happy to go another way, but I want to know who put this poison, what was the intention and the objectives.
As I understand your evidence, Reverend, you do recall those who were advocating for no prosecutions, as in letting sleeping dogs lie, but you prefer not to disclose their names at this stage?
It's informal discussions. I really can't go and say this one said this. There were debates, and we used to differ, and no, I can't go and, it's not like a meeting where you have minutes and who attended and etc. Who expressed which opinion. They have the right to express views, but what stands, it's the official position. That's what would be official position and implementation, but I can't go that far.
Right. Because such information, bearing in mind that this is an investigative, fact-finding commission, could be useful. As you've pointed out, intelligence provides leads. You could assist this commission with leads to follow.
Yeah, no, I won't be able to help you because I didn't keep records and etc. These were views. I mean, some people's views might be weird, but it's debates amongst us. Let me reduce it to a party. Dinners, this and the other, you debate. So I can't go and say, this one did this. I think we can say, what was the decision of government or cabinet? That's what matters for me. The debates are...
Thank you, Reverend. I won't press you further on that aspect. Let's move to your next paragraph on the same page, paragraph 29. There's some repetition. You make the observation that some within government and the ruling party felt we should close the post-TRC matters and do nothing further. They reasoned that by continuing with the prosecution of these matters, we run the risk of destabilizing the country. This was based on their appreciation that while the perpetrators of gross violations of human rights were afraid of being prosecuted, they were themselves preparing to arrange for those on the side of the liberation movement, that is, those who commanded or were involved in MK operations, to be charged as well. In respect of this issue, both those from the old order and those from the new order were in agreement that they wanted to let sleeping dogs lie. So I just want to explore that last line in respect of that issue. Both those from the old order and those from the new order were in agreement that they wanted to let sleeping dogs lie. Now, we did attach to our bundle a great deal of material, and because we don't have that much time, I'm not going to go through it in any detail. But for example, we did attach extracts from books by researchers and authors, Ole Bubenza and Michael Schmidt, where they had carried out interviews with some of the former generals who spoke about meetings that happened between the generals, the old order generals, and the new order, ANC figures. Were you aware that there were such meetings taking place from the late 1990s?
Yeah, I can only talk about pre-94, that there were interactions between the old and the new order. In terms of record, I mean, they would say it started around 1988, around that time, where there were pre-negotiation processes. That's what I would call them. And then during the CODESA process, I said there were CODESA processes and engagement with the generals at another level. But the ANC can explain that better. I'm not aware that there were continuous discussions beyond, but I can't say they were not there. I mean, people were managing some of those generals who ended up blowing up things before the elections. There were bombs up to like 2 weeks before the elections. So if you are taking over responsibility for a country, you must be interested in managing that lot and making sure they don't destabilize the country. So I wouldn't be surprised that the leadership would have had interactions at that level. But yeah, I think those who have the source that
Thank
where
you.
you got it.
We accept you are not part of that.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Now, you have made reference to Attorney Jan Vana in your evidence, and I just want to quote you a short extract from your evidence in chief in the transcript, and that's at page 48 of the cross-examination bundle.
48 or paragraph, page 48 or paragraph 48. Is it page or paragraph?
Yes, it's I'm going to start at the right at the bottom of page 48.
Yeah.
And here you're answering a question from Advocate Sony, who's asking you about a deal between the ANC and the police and defense force hierarchy. And you say as follows: yeah, I do not want to talk about Vana because I would not have direct evidence.
What paragraph is that?
Oh, it's
Line.
it's the very last line on page 48, and then we skip to page 49 at the very top.
From
Yes.
line 22.
The last line, Reverend. The last line of paragraph 48.
It's page 48.
Yeah, okay.
It's a transcript, so
Yeah.
there are no paragraph numbers.
I do not want to talk about Wagner. Yeah, that's the one.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just carry on. I'm not going to read the whole quote because I would not have direct evidence. But I mean, he was the key person. He was. If you tracked any perpetrator, you ended up with Vana. And so he was part of the strategy to make sure people are not, or their people are not prosecuted. And I know a lot about it, but I mean, I do not have evidence. And yes, we certainly understand that the distinction between, information, stroke intelligence, stroke evidence. But since you indicated in your evidence that you knew a lot about it, could you share what you did know with the Commission?
It's in the course of doing my investigation about my matter that I got to know he is the lawyer of these people. When you touch a matter, you end up with him. That's why I ended up using him as the channel to go to the 3 policemen, Otto and the others. And that's why I also went through the prosecution authority, because it was Pretorius, I think, was in the prosecution authority, and I asked that they deliver the letter to Wagner, because I got to know that those people and others are defended by him or he has interest. And I didn't want to send the letters directly to those policemen because they would have said I'm threatening them. I didn't want that. So I went through the prosecution authority to Wagner. So it became clear at that time for me that Wagner is key. When they talk about the ANC 37, talk about files from Lusaka, it ends up with Wagner. That's my information.
Right.
Yeah,
And-
but I didn't know much about him.
And was it Vana who claimed to have files or dossiers about
No, I heard about it.
You heard about that?
I can't say he did, but I heard that he is the person who's key.
And perhaps while we're on that page 49, if I can draw your attention to line 10, and I'll just quote a few extracts from there on. Around 2004, my worry was that they would charge them to release them. You see, if the old order charges them, people who were in the old order, they could charge them to release them. And then a bit further down, and actually, if I can ask you to turn to page 50, from about line 5. I could, and there's a word missing which I'm going to insert, I could not dictate to them, to the NPA, the prosecutors, I could not dictate to Ackerman, but I was suspicious that he may do it as part of their strategy to negate this, and I did not trust them. Could you indicate the basis for your view that that people from the old order would be charged in order to release them?
Yeah, if you had where we were at that point, why wouldn't I think like that? Because people were marking each other. We don't want this ANC to take out power. We want to weaken it and to control them. You know, they allow you to take out power but control you. And so if we have a case where their people would be charged, and I'm not involved, I'm not the prosecution authority, why wouldn't somebody charge a person to get them out? I mean, there are cases which go to court and the government lose them, the state lose them badly. And they've not done their work, they've not done proper procedures, and then the judge makes a ruling against it. So it was a genuine fear in that context. Remember that these people are also the same people who tortured you. It's a funny South Africa where you meet the guy who tortured you working in government, police, security, and you must laugh and feel good, about it, that we have solved the problem of South Africa. I think that's the problem. So I think don't take away the suspicion that that would happen. Yeah, that's me now. Yeah,
Thank you.
maybe I should stop there.
Thank you. Can I also refer you to the next page of the transcript on page 51, and it would be line 5. And I'll just read it into the record so we're all on the same page as to which quote we're looking at. So it reads, "Ja, Vana, that lawyer, he was part of the grand strategy designed before the negotiations to say, if we get there, we are going to have to negotiate that nobody gets prosecuted. That was their strategy, all of them. And so I would not be surprised if he talked to Ackerman to dissuade him from charging the people. On the other hand, we were suspicious that Ackerman was using my case, to precipitate the crisis so that they can then go and arrest some of the ANC leadership." So that is quite a bold statement to make. And I just want to put it to you that that we don't believe there's a proper or coherent basis to make that statement against Ackerman. After all, this is the prosecutor who prosecuted people such as Eugene Terreblanche, Votabus' son, the suspects in the PEPCO 3 matter, Ferdy Barnard, as well as Eugene de Kock. So given his history, was there any basis to have the suspicions that he wouldn't want to do a serious job?
Yeah. I think place me at the time when we were dealing with this matter, not in relation to other cases. We could talk about it. I was not thinking about any case. I was thinking about that moment and what we were dealing with at that moment. That's what I am referring to. I didn't do research and say which case, that case. It would also depend on the timing of those cases. When did they happen? Timeline. I didn't do that. I was dealing with the reality that was facing, and I'm describing a moment in history, not now. I didn't go and do research. I reflected on a moment in history.
Yes.
I may have been wrong, but that's how I thought at that point.
That was not your thinking on the 19th of May, 2026 when you testified?
Yeah, we're still in a difficult corridor. And up to the time I left government, I mean, as I'm saying, I don't want to go into politics now. They infiltrated us in exile. I was here. But they infiltrated the ANC. They were managing even what some people were doing. And in the things that may not be said, that book, I do have a chapter there where I said the old is corrupting the new, and the next was the people who were infiltrated there were activated. It's in the chapter of my book. So we're not dealing with a clean operation, easy. And they activate the person. Once the person is at the top level, they activate the person to produce other outcomes. And I don't want to go into details, but one of those people were given to me as a security person. And then when we're investigating a matter, his name appears in the web, and discovered that they activated that young man once he was in a job that's strategic. So you can't work like it was an innocent operation, easy. It wasn't. It was tough.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.